To go to Brightline right now, talking about after 2 people were hit and killed in the last week, these are the safety measures they're talking about.
County and also chair of the South Florida Regional Transportation Authority. We're joined by Boca Raton Mayor Susan Haney, who's also chair of the Palm Beach Metropolitan Planning Organization. Vice Mayor Brian Collecta, Vice Mayor of the town of Davie, and he's the vice chair of the Broward MPO. Keith James, City Commissioner, City of West Palm Beach. Patrick Goddard, President and Chief Operating Officer for Brightline. Greg Stewart, Executive Director of the Broward MPO. Nick Uren, Executive Director of the Palm Beach Transportation Planning Agency. Chief Kelly Harris and Sergeant Hawkins, City of Boynton Beach. Sergeant Robert Hager, Broward Sheriff's Office. And we're also joined by several members from the Boca Raton Police Department. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Patrick, who's going to get us started. We'll have several speakers, and then at the end, we'll open it up for a few questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. Good morning, everybody. Thanks to everybody, commissioners, for being here this morning and supporting us on this effort. We're here to talk about something that's nothing new. This is about safety, education, and awareness. We want to communicate to the public together to think of a train crossing just like you would think of a red light, a stop sign, or a school zone. Rail safety for passengers and pedestrians is a topic that should be important to us all. At Brightline, it's our #1 priority. Before I begin, I'd like to say that we offer our deepest sympathy to those affected by the recent incidents. It's okay. The fact that these incidents are completely avoidable is what makes them so tragic. Much has been done in the past year by Brightline to educate our communities about compliance with rules around the railroad. The reason we're all here today is we need to amplify that message about safety and to encourage all members of our community to obey the bells, lights, and gates, and to never try and beat a train. I want to review with the public, with the media, and with the elected officials some initiatives that Brightline has been working through over the last year and continues to work on, and how we're going to amplify those initiatives moving forward with the support of the group that has stood here today with me. Brightline began its training runs and simulated service about a year ago. We haven't just been operating for 1 week. We've been running for over 12 months with our trains and our equipment on the FEC corridor, virtually daily. During that time and prior to beginning our operations, we embarked on an aggressive education campaign within our schools, our businesses, and our communities. I'd like to share some of that work, some of that's been done to date, and how we are going to continue to amplify those efforts. Operation Lifesaver is a nonprofit designed to focus on rail safety. We've worked with Operation Lifesaver on some of the following initiatives. We've developed and activated a rail safety campaign with trilingual material. We've built partnerships with the 3 Florida school districts to distribute safety information to students. This campaign has allowed us to get materials into over 40,000 students and families' homes in Palm Beach and along the corridor, as well as Broward. We've worked with Operation Lifesaver to train our own Brightline teammates. We have 50 certified volunteers for Operation Lifesaver who have conducted about 30 to 40 events a year to educate the community on rail safety. We've spoken to, and that includes first responder education, bus drivers, assisted living facilities, residential condos, hospitals, etc. In order to amplify this effort, we're working with OLS to try and find a way to, we are planning, funding, and activating a statewide safety initiative and campaign that will seek to reach even more communities more frequently so that we can communicate this safety message to residents and visitors. I want to talk a little bit about signage. When we added the second track along the FEC corridor, we spent millions of dollars in improvements in conjunction with the Federal Railroad Authority, the MPOs, and the municipalities to improve the crossings and the signage around those crossings, approaching the crossings on both sides. In the short term, Brightline is going to, starting in the next few days, placing VMS signage to add to that permanent signage to communicate the commencement of our passenger service and to emphasize the importance of not trying to cross the tracks when a train is approaching. We are launching plans for an expanded PSA campaign. So right before we started to run service, we began with iHeartRadio a PSA campaign throughout the South Florida communities in which we operate. Back in December, right before we started passenger service, we added to this with some television coverage for these PSAs. The campaigns were done in both Spanish and English, and we're going to continue to run these campaigns with frequency in the communities in which we operate. And I know that some of the media members here today are going to help us with that communication effort of those public safety announcements. In addition to all of this, we have had and will continue to have safety street teams attending events, public events where the public congregate around the FEC corridor so that we can, again, spread the word about rail safety in and out of our communities. We will have street teams attending several events just this weekend in downtown Delray, West Palm Beach, downtown Fort Lauderdale, at the South Florida Fair, etc. And we will continue to do that for the foreseeable future. We're going to place safety ambassadors. So we're going to place individuals at the busiest intersections up and down the corridor to reinforce the need and to communicate obeying the traffic signals and signage that we have placed in the corridor. Train infrastructure improves mobility, takes vehicles off the road, takes articulated trucks off the road, and generally improves the quality of life in our communities. Rail travel is substantially safer than cars, and Brightline is an important new privately funded infrastructure asset for South Florida, for our communities, that will eventually take millions of passengers off the road, off our congested and dangerous highways. No one is more focused or working harder on this issue than the group that stood before you today. We are reminded that our priority, and I wish to remind all of you, should be coming together and everyone using their own platforms, whether you're an elected official or a member of the media, to spread this important safety message. We are here because safety systems are in place. They work, yet we recognize that we need to amplify the message around safety. It's an education challenge that everyone in this room, everybody in this days can assist us with. We know that education works. Since our efforts over a year ago, I am happy to report that fatalities related to railroads decreased by 2.2% in Florida in 2017 over 2016. On the corridor in which we operate, fatalities went down 45% in 2017 over 2016. We've made progress, but there's still much work to do. This will be an effort that we and our partners here, along with the FRA, FECR, SFRTA, and the communities, will continue to work tirelessly on. We need your support. We need the community's support. We need the media's support. We need the support of the elected officials to continue to spread this message. And only then will we be successful in keeping the momentum that we've created. Thank you all for your time.
Well, good morning. I'm Susan Haney, Mayor of the City of Boca Raton and Chair of the Palm Beach Transportation Planning Agency. Welcome to Boca Raton's historic train depot this morning. This is not a Brightline issue or a trial rail issue or a freight train issue. This is a safety awareness issue for all of South Florida to educate our communities to stay safe around our railroads. And this is why we're here today, to implore people to follow the laws around our active railroads and to respect the gates. Recent incidents that have occurred on both rail corridors are tragic and avoidable. We are becoming a multimodal community with pedestrians, bicyclists, bus, trains, cars, and more. And there must be a heightened awareness around our rail safety, and that's what we're here to discuss. The Palm Beach TPA is here to assist in educating, as well as the City of Boca Raton. We have already launched this campaign, providing information on our website, on our social media platforms, and have worked with our first responders, with Brightline, to educate all. So as we were children and we learned stop, look, and listen, what's old is new again, and we're here today to promote that awareness. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Keith James. I'm a member of the City Commission of West Palm Beach and also a member of the Palm Beach County Transportation Planning Agency. And first of all, I too want to offer my condolences to the families and friends of those who have passed recently. It is important that the public understand that these trains move faster than they appear. It is just simply, you should not try to beat a train. If the gates are down and the lights are flashing red, this means stop. Just like a red light, do not try to walk, bike, or drive around them. Respect the gates. To avoid accidents, we urge everyone to simply obey the safety laws and to look, listen, and live. Our rail corridor communities are partnering with the rail industry and the media to remind everyone to be safe at rail crossings, and I know the City of West Palm Beach will also be emphasizing this message through our various platforms. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Brian Collecta, and I am the Vice Mayor of the town of Davie, Florida, and the Vice Chair of the Broward Metropolitan Planning Organization. I have personally spent my entire career in education, and for that reason I know that education is the most powerful tool that we can have in the toolbox for safety. And I personally commend Brightline for their commitment to increasing education safety on railroad crossings. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Stephen Abrams, Palm Beach County Commissioner, also Chairman of the South Florida Regional Transportation Authority, and I too, on behalf of SFRTA, extend our condolences to the families of the two people who died recently. And frankly, also the engineers are in our thoughts as well. You know, I am a daily tri-rail rider, and I have had occasion to talk to engineers who have been involved in these kinds of incidents. Remember, these trains are not cars. They can't swerve. They can't stop on a dime. In some cases, in many cases, people are darting out in front of them during these tragic occurrences, and they have in the past also had eye-to-eye contact. So it's a very traumatic experience also for our engineers. Train safety has been at the top of SFRTA's agenda since our inception in the 1980s. We've been focusing even more over the past year because of a rash of suicides that we saw on the tracks, and we certainly want to redouble our efforts today and work with all of the operators on the rail, on both rail corridors as well as the transit agencies. The fact is that standing in the way of any train at any speed is dangerous and life imperiling. The key remains education and awareness. SFRTA has been in the process over the past year of implementing an action plan. We're going to be rolling that out in the near future, working with the 211 helpline and other social service agencies that deal with suicide prevention, installing more signage. I would personally like to see if the federal government would allow us to install even more explicit signage. You know, over the years we're used to the yellow train crossing and what they call the white crossbuck. Brightline has been very successful in adding signage. I think, like the cigarette companies, we need to add more explicit signage to the extent of don't try to beat the train. It's likely that you'll be killed. And finally, and also, by the way, we have to remember that this is an impulse that people have on the roadways. We all know that people try to run red lights each and every day, in fact, to a far greater extent than trains. And certainly our firefighters and paramedics and first responders deal with that issue every day. And then finally, we're also exploring using drones possibly to go down the tracks in advance of the trains and warn our train crews if someone is on the tracks. That's a very innovative idea that we're going to be exploring. So working together with the other rail operators and the transportation agencies and other social service organizations, I feel we will be able to reduce the number of fatalities. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to help facilitate some questions. We'll only have time for a couple. Todd, you.
So we ask ourselves every day if there's any way that we can make our equipment any more safe, because safety is our #1 priority. And I know that the group stood up here today feels the same way. You know, rail is safer than cars in many ways. Commissioner talked about the number of fatalities and accidents on the road. There are far, far less on rail. What we know can help improve the situation is education. From the statistics that I cited, 45 less fatalities on the FEC corridor last year. Education is working. We just need to continue amplifying that message, and we need your help. Yeah, so digital signage. Just like you would see, you know, the police put out around a construction site. It's, you know, we're working right now on getting that in front of the more active crossings to communicate and emphasize the signage and the equipment that's already there.
Well, yeah.
In terms of time and distance, how much longer does it take a Brightline train to stop than a tri-rail?
How much time does it take a Brightline train to stop than a tri-rail? I honestly, I could probably do the math for you, but it's you know, it takes a while to stop a train. Doesn't matter what the, you know, size and scale is. It takes a while to stop a train. I know a freight train can take a mile to stop. I mean, that shouldn't be a piece of information that anybody's really interested in, to be quite frank. Because if the gates are down, you shouldn't be trying to cross or race it or figure out how long it's going to take to stop. A 100%, Todd. Everything worked exactly as was intended.
All right, we'll take one more question.
We share their priority and focus on safety. What I would like to do is I'd like to invite them to spend some time with us and understand what we have done. I'd like to have the same discussion with Senator Rubio and explain to him the work and the effort that we put into communicating how to behave around railroad tracks and to see the equipment that we have in place. We need their help. We need their assistance in amplifying the message that we're trying to send to the community today.
That's it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We're done.